My name's Jeff St Laurent. This is the Tuesday Live Show, and I'm thrilled, as always, to be bringing some great information to you coaches as I help you transition to a full-time business. The reason I do this is because I've been doing this, my full-time coaching business, since 2004, and I realized the power of mentorship and the accountability that I have, but also not knowing some of the things that I needed to know, and having and hiring those mentors in my life and having that success in my business, and then looking at it to say, like, wow, you know what? Doing it, 12 years at the time when I started helping coaches transition to full-time, and saying, hey, you know what? These people need my help. So I became passionate about it, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing with you right now. Before we get started on the show and the topic, which is, like I said, dealing with the emotional ups and downs of entrepreneurship, it's a real topic, and it's important, even if just for you to hear it today, just to be validated on some of your feelings, because this is real stuff. And if we don't understand how to handle those emotional ups and downs, and they happen several times in a day, a lot of times, then we're not going to be able to remain consistent. And that's the key to business, if anything, is your consistency over time, right? It's not just consistency, it's consistency over time. Anyways, I do record all of my live shows, and I put them on my website, sellingcoaching.com. Go there, check out the university, and also right on the homepage, I have a great resource called the Ultimate Startup Guide for Coaches. So you definitely want to check that out. Enter your name and email address. That's also going to put you in my email community. I want you in my email community. I want you receiving my emails so you know what's going on. I have some great content that I share in there each and every week, several times a week. And then also, I want you to see how I utilize my email to stay in communication with my audience. That's such a huge piece, and I'll weave that into today as well, because it's important that you're doing that, and it's also a great way or a solution to handle the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So with that being said, let's just jump right into this. And one of the things that when it comes to entrepreneurship is an emotion that we have is it's lonely. It can feel very lonely. And especially if you're doing your business mostly virtual. Now, since 2004, I've been doing this full time. And for the first 10, 12 years or so, I did it face-to-face mainly, meaning I did live events. I did speaking engagements. I traveled. I was face-to-face networking and things like that. And for the past 4 years or so now, as I've helped coaches transition to a full-time business, I've done it 100% virtually, meaning I've done it from this office. I mean, I've traveled to do a few things, but it's like 99% of the time I'm in this office. This is where I do my marketing from, so forth and so on. And so I've had the opportunity to have both of those different models. But even when it comes to the face-to-face model, where you're getting out there and connecting with people, at the end of the day, it's still lonely. Because ultimately you come back to your office, whether you've got an office like this or just a corner of a common space in your house, wherever it is, it's lonely, and you're the only person there. You're the only person responsible for and being accountable to. And yeah, you can hire people like myself, mentor coaches. You can have other coaches. You can have accountability groups and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, those are great, and they can give you some accountability. But at the end of the day, it's not like if a client comes to me and they're not doing their work, I'm mad at them. Like, I'm not going to be like pissed at them or even disappointed in them, because that's not my role. You're going to be more disappointed in yourself. And those are the real emotions of entrepreneurship, is that disappointed in yourself for not moving forward, especially when you're hiring somebody or you're in some type of an accountability group. And really the motivation for doing this topic today, it came from one of my clients yesterday, and as I'm meeting with them, and I started mentoring with them, and they had some good momentum right away. And this happens to a lot of people, and even people that I work with, is they tend to get bogged down sometimes initially in the initial process, especially when it comes to starting to create some content in terms of getting their message out there. And you know me as a coach, if you follow me at all, or especially in my my private Facebook group, as well as Selling Coaching private Facebook group, is I'm all about people speaking their message. And I'm all about content marketing. And when I say content marketing, essentially as a coach, how we market our business, there's really two avenues. If I could broaden it and say there's paid marketing, and then there's content marketing, which is free. And there's advantages and disadvantages to both. But the reason why I primarily start people off with the content marketing path is it can feel sometimes slower than, let's say, another path of the paid way. But at the end of the day, the reason I start them off in that path is because it's so important. A lot of coaches don't even know who they're helping with, what specifically, never mind what they're even talking about. And then when it comes time to me helping them structure and set up their email community and emailing their people on a regular basis, having maybe a live show like this, maybe a podcast, maybe a webinar, maybe a telephone call or anything, you just on some type of weekly basis, that's where I start getting not resistance, but just they get paralyzed, right? They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. And oftentimes it's like, especially when you know what you're supposed to be doing and you're not doing it because of, if you will, the fears or the blocks that we might have in our head, it's hard. It's just hard, and we feel disappointed. I mean, it's not so much that other people are going to be disappointed with you. Like I said, as your mentor coach, I'm not going to be disappointed with you. I'm going to try and encourage you and help figure out, hey, what's going on, and find maybe ways where if the way we talked about it, or maybe the way you're viewing things, or maybe the way you're learning from different marketing efforts that you're learning from, whether you've hired someone, or maybe if you've bought a course or putting yourself through a course, or just reading, online emails of all the different gurus, if you will, of in studying, seemingly successful people that are out there. You have to watch that, because everyone looks successful on the internet. You know what I mean? Everyone looks successful with their bright, shiny website and, the talk that they have in terms of what they're doing. But you just got to pay attention to what's behind all that and the consistency of it. Because, yeah, anyone can have a great month or a great couple months, but can you have a great month consistently over a decade, over 2 decades, for the rest of your business career, and evolve over that time as well? Like, that's the challenge. That's why I teach some of the fundamentals I do with coaches, is because it's not just about now or this week or this month or even this year. It's like, if you have a full-time business, you've got to be supporting yourself and your financial obligations or responsibilities forever, ideally, because otherwise at some point you're going to have to go back to a job, or you're going to have to go back to, if you will, the plan B. And most people don't want the plan B. They want this to be their main plan and their only plan. But that takes that consistency over time. And so that's why when we have these emotions where we're disappointed, we're frustrated, we're confused, we don't have clarity, we don't know what to do, even times when we have that clarity, and it's just like, I hear it all the time. This happens to me all the time. It still happens to me all the time. Is, I'll get an idea, or I'll get maybe an avenue to go down, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh my God, I'm super excited about it. And then all of a sudden it's like, within a breath or two later, I could just be like, seemingly confused again, and I'm like, is this what I really want to do? Now, I'll say that happens to me 99 or 100% less than it's happened to me in the past, because I know my plan, I know my vision, I know where I'm going, and I also am very focused on what I'm doing, and I've learned how to tame myself in terms of what I'm willing to let into my area of focus in terms of marketing efforts and things like that, because there are a lot of other things out there, and I've had my eyes on the bright, shiny objects along the way. But especially when you're brand new and you don't have the solid path, and you're knowing, oh, this is where I'm going down. There's, oh wow, we're like bugs at nighttime with the shiny lights on the highway, and you know what I mean? It's just like, we've got to pick that path. And maybe the bug example is not a good, because at the end of the day, the bug hits the headlight and goes splat. But I'd rather have you go splat, and meaning commit to that headlight and go down that path. And even if you fall, it's the great part about choosing a path is you have a direction and you commit to it, and then you can study around that. So when my job as a mentor, coach, and people hire me is to kind of get an idea of, well, where are you at, and what are some of the visions that you have, and where do you want to go with your business? What type of income do you want to earn? How do you want to market yourself? I'm going to help push someone out of their comfort zone, because you're going to be out of your comfort zone no matter what, right? Personally, emotionally, physically, everything is going to be outside your comfort zone. But with that being said, it's like, I also want to find areas that aren't like ridiculously outside your comfort zone. Like, I was working with a mentor and client the other day, and I'm helping them structure, some weekly content, weekly marketing, things like that, and create the structure for it. And they're just like, so not about doing like a live video broadcast like this. And I'm like, that's okay. So I'm like, well, what would you feel comfortable with? I mean, yeah, video is maybe the best, audio is maybe the second best, if you will. And then, I mean, hey, if that's not even cool and you're a great writer, maybe you can write something on a weekly basis. I've got people in my Selling Coaching private Facebook group that contribute to the group on a weekly basis, man. And they every single week they're writing something. So maybe you can start writing something right away. Maybe you can start a podcast. I just launched my Selling Coaching Minute a week ago, which is, it's a podcast. It's going to be on Spotify. It's going to be on iHeartMusic. It's going to be iTunes. It's going to be on Alexa. It's going to be an Alexa flash briefing. So I'm setting that up to go out on all those our marketing platforms. But the point is that, and it's just a minute thing. And yeah, it takes time and effort to create that. And even as I'm talking to some of my other clients that have been creating some content over the course of time, that might be a good option for them because they already have a lot of content that they can start to repurpose. That's what I'm essentially doing with my content and my emails. I'm repurposing it for that. But the point of it is that and initially, a lot of that can be overwhelming. So when you have all these options and then you're by yourself and then you're in front of your computer and then, we all have the ability to be disciplined, yet when we're by ourselves and we're on social media and you're on Facebook, let's say, and email and everything's open, and then you got your mobile phone right there as well, and stuff's popping up and people are texting you personally, business-wise, emails are going off. Next thing you know, ads are popping up. Next thing you know, you're reading an ad about this other guy or this girl telling you, how you can create, your first 5-figure months in the next 3 days, and that you don't have to wait and develop relationships and all this other stuff, right? And then all of a sudden, the path you were starting to go down, you start to get confused. And so in order to start to avoid, if I can say it that way, maybe avoid some of these feelings, or maybe said differently, start to insulate yourself. How I've started to create my success over time and maintain that success is I started to insulate myself from these items. So, my mobile phone, for example, like I turn it on silent when I'm with my clients, and it's not just the vibrating mode. It's like when you go in, this is an iPhone anyways, there's actually a silent mode, which means this is not going to ring, this is not going to vibrate, this is not going to anything. And not only do I do that, but I put it off to the side, out of sight. So they say out of sight, out of mind. It's out of sight, out of mind. And so I insulate that. I turn off my notifications on my computer. I make sure that when I'm not on Facebook specifically, as an example, I actually close that window on my web browser, because if it's open and my speakers are on, guess what? Someone comments on a post that I commented on, or vice versa, whatever, a ding, ding, and things are popping up in the corner, and I'm trying to do email and get through email. And next thing you know, I'm ADD, and I'm like, oh, well, look, someone did this. And then I totally forget what I was doing over here, right? And I'm sharing some of these things because these affect all of us. And I'm talking about the strategy of insulating ourselves. Is we've got to insulate ourselves from these things. And some of these strategies I'm saying right now, and turning your phone on silent and getting it out of the way, and closing, Facebook, closing the web browser, turning off your notifications, things like that. These are things you all hopefully have heard before, or seen it before, or thought of before. But the difference is that, do you execute on them, right? And so it's not about new things all the time. It's just like fundamentals. There's no new fundamentals. There's the fundamentals of a game. In basketball, there's dribbling, there's passing, there's shooting. There's a bounce pass, there's a chest pass. What? You don't need to learn around it. There's no new fundamentals with that, right? A foul shot's a foul shot. Maybe you have a different style of shooting it, but like, again, you've got to pick a style and you've got to go with it and you've got to shoot it. I work with my son as he plays basketball. He's 12 years old now, and I coach their team over the last few years. And we'll probably go this afternoon and play some basketball. And he's, when he shoots his foul shots, it's like sometimes he's watching all these players, and Kyrie Irving, and he watched play things like Michael Jordan and LeBron James, etc. when they play their games, and they'll have different styles of free throw shooting. And one day he's shooting like LeBron James, and the next day he's shooting like Kyrie Irving or Larry Bird did. And I'm like, dude, you can't keep changing your style. Like, you got to find your style. You got to pick it. You got to commit to it. And you got to shoot, and you got to shoot, and you got to shoot the same way. So it becomes so repetitive and so boring that you just make every single shot. That's what the professionals do. The ones that are high ranking in terms of 3-point percentage and free throw shooting, it's just like they practice over and over again. They don't change it, and it's boring. And I bring that back to our business is I want your business to be boring. You're saying, Jeff, what do you mean you want my business to be boring? It's like, you've got to develop a routine. You've got to develop a routine, and this routine is going to help. I'm tying this all together with these. This is going to help insulate you. This routine is going to help insulate you from these ups and downs, because the ups and downs only come when you're not focused, when you don't know what you're doing, when you don't really have office hours. When did you need to be into your office today? Let me ask you that. When did you need to be in your office? I need to be in my office at a certain time today, and not only did I have to be in a certain time, I also have to be out of my office at a certain time today. And I had things scheduled like this live show and another client, but in the other 3 hours that I didn't have anything scheduled, right? So So if I'm going to be in my office by 10:30 this morning after my workout, I didn't have anything scheduled, but why I needed to get into my office at 10:30, guess what? Because I knew what I needed to do when I got in there, right? First thing I did was to follow up with some clients, and I had some other items listed in my calendar that I knew I needed to get done before this live show. And then afterwards, I got a client, and then I got another hour before I stop, go get my son at school, and then I take the rest of the day, be with him, because I have him on Tuesdays, right? But I insulate myself because I can focus. I can stay focused because I know what's expected of me, because I tell myself what I need to do. And it doesn't mean that I don't get distracted. I found myself earlier on Facebook, and next thing you know, I was doing this and I'm like, what do I even go on here for? I have to text someone, and so I use my mobile phone, and next thing you know, I'm replying to other texts, like to my mom and to my brother, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. I need to wait to do that. And it's starting to create that discipline. So after I use the text, I got my phone on silent, and I put it out of sight, out of mind again, right? So it's creating that discipline to do those things. And so it's having that schedule. It's knowing when you're going in and when going out of your office, knowing what you're supposed to be doing each and every day. And those are the things that I talked about when I say just earlier about it being boring, is you want to have that routine so that there's no surprises, because I want you to kind of be more of on a flat line effect. Flat line effect meaning like, yeah, you're going to be kind of going like this, but I don't want this. Highs are super highs and super lows. Like that's too exhausting for us. When we get and this can be a real high, meaning I just signed a client, and that means when you sign a client, it means they paid you, meaning you charge their credit card, the money's in your bank account. That's a real high, right? And then there's fake highs where there are hopes like, oh, I've got 5 complimentary sessions lined up this week, but you didn't qualify any of them, and you just kind of like just threw it out there and for anyone for the taking, and you got 5 people to say yes, and then they don't show, and then they bag you and they blow you off, or they get on the call, and then you get to the end and they're like, oh, I need to think about it. I don't know, my money's tight, which just means you didn't really take the time to qualify, which means they're really not even that interested, or were never really interested or considering hiring you. It's just like they just couldn't say no, and you offered them complimentary sessions, so they said yes, and now there you are, or they blew you off, right? So there's a difference between a real high and a false high, right? So with this flat line effect I'm talking about here, it's like our highs are low and our lows are high, meaning it never deviates that much, right? So even the real highs, it still stays in this flat line effect. Like when I get a client and I get paid, like I'm not like, whoo, way up here. Like I'm excited and I'm good, but guess what? After it's done, it's just like business as usual. I'm like, great, I got a client, but it's not like, whoo, I got a client, man, it's a beautiful day. I'm gonna go take a break. I'm gonna go, whatever. Like I slack off, right? I back off. It's just like, the best time to make a sale is after you make a sale. That's what I learned. So it's like I hit the gas, and now I'm just hitting it harder, because I'm using that. I'm allowing that to fuel my momentum forward versus upwards, right? So I'm high, but when you're high, you're coming down at some point, right? So this is flatline effect I want you to go for. Those are the real highs, and then the real lows are the same things, in the sense that if someone says no, or someone doesn't get back to you, or things like that, it's just like, it's you weather the storm and realize that it's not a big deal, or they're busy, or they're just not interested, and you just next. And I don't spend too much time on one thing. And so what that does is not only insulates me, but it keeps me moving forward. So there's forward progress versus up and down progress. And up and down progress, you're making progress, but just like basic geometry, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, not this, right? And so that's why I want to say it's forward. So it's next. So it's getting that discipline, and it's not getting too excited or ecstatic or too disappointed or frustrated or angry about something that I can't necessarily control, like other people, and you're dealing with other people. So I'm posting things and I'm putting things out there, and oh my God, I just launched my new flash briefing, or I got this podcast out there, and I've worked so hard on it, and I put it out there, or I did my first Facebook Live, and no one watched it, and no one's commenting on it, and it's like crickets out there. And these are the things I hear, and I've felt all the time, in my business as well, and nothing's happening, and it's just like, it's just next. Okay, do you next? And sometimes when a client says that to me, I'm not an ass and be like, all right, so what, next, right? And I'll empathize. I'm like, yeah, sometimes it's like that. And so I'll walk them through that, but I'm like, we've got to set our expectations correct, meaning we've got to get to that point of educating our expectations of what to expect. That's what I like to do with my clients is especially as they're doing some things, I'm like, hey, you're setting up your first meetup. All right, well, I've done this before, and we need to expect maybe, 2, 3, maybe at best a handful of people. Worst case, no one shows up, but I've never not had anyone maybe either show up or at least not register, right? So let's set our expectations. But I always say, expect no one's going to register and expect no one's going to show up. Of course, you're going to hope for it, but expect that. So if it doesn't happen, great, let's set another date and just do it again, right? I had a client that I helped them create their first 6-week course. I helped them set up their marketing for it. They did a little bit early in their business, so they didn't have a huge audience, but they really wanted to do it. And I'm like, great, let's set it up, let's structure it. I talked them through and I helped them with setting up their structure and their marketing and things like that. And they had some people that were committed but not paid yet, which I talked to them about. And next thing you know, come launch of the class, no one had signed up yet. All right, you know what? Next, when are you going to launch the next class? Let's do it again. Let's tweak a few things. Let's get people to sign up and pay when they commit. That means they're committed, and let's move on from there, right? So, because then they came back to me. It's like, oh, I'm kind of in a funk right now. It's like, all right, well, we don't want to get you to that spot. It's just another day. It's just another minute in your business. And so it's almost like in a lot of ways, we need to detach ourselves from the results, because if we are attached to the results, just like as a great coach, we detach ourselves from their agenda, right, and from their results. We have to, because if they don't move forward, they don't do anything, then we are going to be disappointed. We are going to be frustrated with them. We are going to be angry, and then we're no better than a family member or a spouse or a best friend who might be affected by someone's lack of action or actions or wrong choices, right? And so we've got to detach ourselves from there. We've also got to detach ourselves from our results in our business. I'm not saying like, oh, well, if I don't earn any money, who cares? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's just like, you've got to know what your tasks are. You got to know where you're going with this. And when you know where you're going with that, it's like you get it done. And then when you succeed, great, awesome. Have a little celebration, but woo, but all right, let's not take the day off. Let's just keep going. Next minute, it's like, all right, keep marketing. When you have a quote failure or a disappointment, it's like, all right, I'm not saying don't mourn it, don't get upset. Like, it's a natural emotion. Just feel it. But if you can feel it instead of resisting it or just and just being a child and you're throwing a fit, inside, or however we throw our fits, I throw them too. But I'm saying feel it. So feel the high, feel the low. That's a way of staying in that flatline effect of not getting it way up here, way down there, and you can just continue on moving forward. These are some of the things that help me insulate myself, and it doesn't mean that I don't have big emotions sometimes, and there are some times where something will happen that is a really big thing, and that are cause for more of a celebration than okay, next. And so don't take this message like out of context. What I'm trying to do is my main message here is I'm trying to insulate you from all the things that distract you and keep you focused on the day-to-days so you can stay on that forward progress. And then also bigger than that is that the key is, as I said in the very beginning of this show, is the consistency over time. And it's not just the consistency, but it's over that time. So that goes into whatever time frame we have in a given day. It's just like we've got to have some sort of consistency with it, and we're showing up and then we're leaving at those times. So not only are we honoring our business, but we're not allowing it to affect other areas of our life. So we're also not sitting in our office for 8 hours just pretending to work when maybe the stuff we need to get done can actually get done in an hour or a couple hours, outside of maybe whatever we have for actual clients in that day. If I don't have clients in a day, I'm not going to spend 8 hours in my office, right? Like yesterday, I had 6 hours of coaching. I spent 8 hours in my office. 6 of it was coaching, but 2 hours of it was my marketing and my follow-up and setting up my events and my email. And it's like, well, how much more of that stuff can I do in a given day? If I had 8 more hours, it's like, yeah, I can do more, but how much can I do? There's going to be a point where it's just like, I got to be done. So we've got to, pay attention to some of that stuff. And that's where, as a mentor coach, I help you with some of that stuff. So in conclusion of this, hopefully this has been helpful for you. But if you do find yourself in that position where you're just like, oh my God, I need that clarity. I need that focus. I need some of the specifics, if you will, some of those missing pieces. So, I see all these bright, shiny objects and I am all over the place and I don't know where to land and I don't know where to begin and put it all together. Consider working with me and hiring me as your mentor coach, or at least talking with me about how I can assist you in some of those areas. If this is something you want to talk more about, go to sellingcoaching.com. Go to the Work With Me page, scroll to the bottom, and fill out the form there. I will call you. Yes, I'm going to call you. that's what I do, and I want to connect with you, and I want to find out a little bit more about yourself, you as a person and your family, and then also where are you at with your business and what are you looking to do. And it doesn't mean you have to hire me from there. It just means like, all right, well, where are you at and why now? And why are you considering, and why are you open to considering hiring someone like myself? And if those things check out, maybe we move forward and we do something together. But maybe it might be at a point where you're not ready for that. And maybe I just give you some tips or some resources, or just a thought of maybe where you can go right now before maybe you finish up a certification, or maybe you're going through a personal issue, if you will, that you need to clear up before you can focus on something. So either way, go to sellingcoaching.com, check out the work with page, scroll to the bottom of that page, and then we can reach out and connect from there.